The mountainous gaming backlog. We all know them, we all got them. At least I think I can safely assume you have one if you're watching a video about lessons learned from the gaming backlog. I made the decision that I was going to tackle my mountainous gaming backlog. For better, for worse, success
Reach that point and come back, and I'm sure you'll have some stories to tell.
or failure, I'm going to do it. And so I started at the beginning of 2025, and 1 month has already gone by. We're in February now, and after only 1 month, I've completed 5 games. I'm not too far behind on a 6th. There are many questions I have unanswered and many things I have yet to learn in my journey so far. I learned 3 valuable lessons on my backlog quest in January of 2025.
What?
Having a system and sticking to it is key. Picture this. You are in a factory. I don't know what this factory makes, but you are in charge of a station.
And I bet you got a lot of questions right now.
Things come to your station, you work on them one at a time till you're done with what you need to do to it before you send it on its way.
If folks knew how bad it was getting up here, well, I don't know what would happen.
And then the next one comes. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Rinse and repeat.
It would help me for you to go back to your lab and do your damn job.
This is an analogy for gaming, and gaming starts to sound a little boring when you say that.
If you're hearing this message, something went wrong.
Gaming's not boring. Gaming's fun. So the important thing to show there is when we have in work, in that, like, the work coming to you would be a backlog, whether that's in a day or whatever. That is effectively your backlog, what you need to do, and you do it one at a time. The same mechanics can apply to gaming, your gaming backlog. Imagine your desk is your station. If you're gaming on PC, just your computer, wherever, your console. My computer is my station. And what I need to do to everything in my backlog is play through them. Now, you're not going to start working at your job. You're not going to start working on one normally. Okay, this is just an example, a simple example for all intents and purposes. Not going to get into technicalities. You do it one at a time. Okay, and then send it on its way. We want to apply the same thing to gaming. You need to set up a system where you can play games one at a time. Now this can be whatever it is, but effectively, if you could line up your games in single file line, or if they were arranged on a bookshelf more realistically, and you were to grab the next one, however you had that sorted, that is the order, that is the queue. It can start to make gaming feel like work, and we don't want that. So this is a system that I found works for me. I can play whatever, one game at a time. If there's a game I want to play, that's the game I'm playing. But if I can't decide on a game to play, I go to the oldest game in my backlog, games I added in the beginning, and I go from there. That has been really helpful for me.
No offense, but I'm a little busy saving your ass right now.
I found that going through these old games that I added to it's making me reminisce about the beginning when I first got on Steam and started buying all these games that I was missing out on before, these random little indie gems that inspired me. At the same time, it is making me more decisive in what I do want to play. Games where I was like, yeah, I kind of want to play that, I kind of want to play that. Well, I know that I'm either playing the oldest games first, or I'm going to play something that I've already decided I want to play. Well, it was so much easier for me picking. Like, I made a video about it when I was playing Spider-Man Miles Morales. That was the newest game in my backlog, but a friend bought it for me, and it was at the top of my wish list, and it was so much easier for me to say, yeah, I want to play that now, so I did that. So really having, like, I think it's not so much a one or the other, it kind of is, but I think you have 2 tracks. You can pick a game, but you have to be decisive. You pick the game, that's what you're going to play. Otherwise, you go to the next one in line. And That has helped me tremendously. The games really aren't as long as you think. I don't know how much you may game in a week, if it's consistent, if it fluctuates. You might not even keep track of it. If you're on Steam, it has a nice way of being able to track it, and you can see for yourself. But you might game 10 hours a week, 20. I remember back before I was married and I was a student, and in a darker time in my life, I was gaming over 40 hours a week. Not saying that you need to be in a darker place to do that. Basically, here's my point. We all game different amounts of time. And I would, if I were you, take a look at the number of how much time you've played recently, if you can figure it out, and just go to howlongtobeat.com and take a look at a game on your backlog. And you start to realize a lot of these games are beatable in a week or less. Or if it's not, you're going to be over halfway after just 1 week. So even if it takes you 2 weeks to finish a game, you could finish 2 games in a month, and that will feel so much better as opposed to not having finished a game in a while, like that has been the case for me. Another lesson I've learned is that it is extremely helpful to look for a social aspect in each game. Now let me ask you a question about your backlog. Any number of these games did you add because somebody else was talking about them? Somebody else played them?
Hey, Roxxon's stealing your stuff.
From what I hear, you are too. Thanks for that, by the way.
Chances are, whether it was a streamer or a friend or a family member or somebody we knew got us interested in this game. We are very social creatures in one way or another, and looking for social aspects in these games have really helped me out. Let me explain this a little bit more practically. It's a little hard for me to find the right words to say this, so I'm going to show you. In the 5 games I've beaten, let's go through these one by one. The first game I beat was Detroit Become Human. I originally got Detroit Become Human when it came to Steam because I heard the guys on the Married to the Games podcast talking about it a few years back when I was working a cubicle desk job, and they had me interested in that game. I remember that. I played a little bit, I never finished it. Fast forward to when this game's going steeper on sale, and I had a little bit of playtime, my friend asked me what I thought of the game, and was it worth it, because it had good reviews, is steep on sale, and I was his friend on Steam who had playtime in the game. And I remembered that loving the little bit I played and being so interested in it before because of hearing about it on that podcast, that with this backlog in mind, it jumped to the front of my backlog because I wanted to play it and then be able to tell him a little bit more whether or not I should get him it. I ended up buying it for him because I really liked that game. The second game I beat was Sheepy, A Short Adventure, a really short, free-to-play game on Steam. But I remembered when I was going through my backlog and I sort by the date added to the library, if there wasn't a date, as in it's a free game that's in your library, that goes all the way at the bottom, and I saw it down there, and I remembered that it was only there because one of my coworkers raved about the game. He said, if you ever have a chance, play it. Like, he was really talking it up, and I just kind of thought, I didn't really take a close look at it, but I'm like, it's a short game. I'm looking at beating games now, and he said it was really good, so I'm going to try it out. That game, I think I finished in less than 90 minutes. Towards the end of the first session, he tells me, or he messaged me, so I see the message pop up on my screen as I'm playing it, that he was just expressing his enthusiasm. He's like, yes! Like, he's so excited that I was playing it, and he's like, oh, you almost got to a really good part, and it encouraged me to push on through it, and I loved that game. It was so much fun, and definitely worth it. And I would not have checked that out otherwise, or probably ever saw that game if it wasn't for him talking about it in the first place. That gaming suggestion came from word of mouth. Then the next game that I finished was Fallout 3. And Fallout 3, I did a video on this on my third video, so I didn't do as well of a job of explaining exactly what that game meant to me. But before I shared my experience playing that game, I shared the fact that what my experience was not playing that game. As in, when it came out on the Xbox 360 back in the day, I didn't have an Xbox 360 or a PS3. I could not play it. I saw this game at my friend's house, and I watched him play a little bit. And I remember just looking at the stack of game cases, and that one being one of them, it might have been on top. And just as I'm longing for the ability to play these newer games, and I saw him play it a little bit, and I'm just jealous because I did not have this game. I could not afford it. Well, I added it to my backlog once I realized it was on Steam, and I got into PC gaming, and I had disposable income as an adult, so it had been sitting there, and I decided to finally play it. And honestly, I found closure through this. I know I don't mean to sound cheesy or anything, but like I felt closure through it. And part of me, like, because I only played the main story, because the main story really wasn't that long, and it's been sitting in my backlog for 10 years. Over 10 years. I'm so happy I took the time to play through that, and now there's so much more in that world. Fallout 3 was much more like Skyrim in the Bethesda games back in the day, where the story, like, there was so much more to that world besides the story. So I'm definitely going back to that one. But I talked to my friend about that, and he reminisced about it, and like we just talked about it together, and it was so, I don't know, I want to say the word validating. I don't know, it was so great. Like, it just, I was so happy I played through it with it, and then I talked to him about it. The next game that I beat was Spider-Man Miles Morales. Spider-Man Miles Morales was at the top of my wish list because I really enjoyed Spider-Man Remastered. I kept deciding, am I going to buy it or not? I don't know. Well, my friend ended up buying it for me as a Christmas gift. And I was so thankful for that. And now, with the help from Step 1, having a system, I'm like, oh, I want to play Spider-Man Miles Morales. And I played through it, and he hasn't played the newer Spider-Man games yet, but I shared with him that I had so much fun with it, and I was so grateful for that gift. But him gifting it to me made it much easier for me to want to play it then. And the next game on the list is Temtem, an MMO creature collector. I remember buying the game. I think I put about 15 hours into it, and I only made it to the second island. I was not as focused in what I'm doing. I was just enjoying as I was going along, as I never really got far in any of the Pokemon games. And my friend, he got the game, and he said we decided we wanted to play through it together. And playing through that game together in co-op, it was made for a much better place. I actually had restarted my file, and then we played through it. And that main story was a long game, or it was a long time. I think our playthrough together was at least 60 hours. But playing through that game together, it made it so much easier to do so, and so much more rewarding, that it was just very, very, it was like a no-brainer. But that social aspect, there was a social aspect in each of these games. So those are 3 valuable lessons I learned in just 1 month on my backlog quest. Having a system and sticking to it is key. Most games aren't as long as you think, and it is helpful to find a social aspect with every game you're playing. 1 month in the books, 5 games completed, and a few valuable lessons learned. I'm really excited to finally be making progress on this, and I just want to encourage you that if you are on your journey right now, or you're thinking about taking that first step, apply these lessons that I shared with you today. You're going to start making progress on your quest. So that's all that I have for you today. I want to know, what valuable lessons have you learned from your gaming backlog? And if you haven't began your gaming backlog yet, but you're thinking about it, what's holding you back? Thanks for watching.